The shuttle, working on his agility.
Yeah, the one thing with it, he's got a lot of ability on the upside, but there's a lot of questions with him. I think he's got the skill work to do it, but how bad does he want it? And that's really going to be the question mark for how bad does he want it.
He almost hurt himself there, hey guys?
Yeah, well, I mean, extra effort. And again, this is the first time he's been out in this environment, and you're trying to show well, but if you don't have that familiarity with it, if you're not warm, and here's another guy, no perspiration on him, so he's not warm enough to be able to get the job done. But to talk to your point about how bad does he want it, that has to be a question mark. One, he's a tremendous athlete and an outstanding rebounder. I think the only guy in the ACC.
They're looking, well, I got people, you want to go pro, you got to do this or that. And that was the most pleasing thing about the championship game. I think Butler and Duke, they weren't the best two teams talent-wise, but I think they were the best teams. And their ultimate goal was just try to win a championship. They weren't worried about my pro career or whatever. They were about just try to win a championship.
His talent is off the charts. I mean, he has freakish athletic ability. He has incredible explosiveness around the rim.
Look at his length.
My only question for him is his demeanor. He has that docile demeanor. There were a couple of times, Lynn, and you said it correctly, throughout the season, where he wouldn't crack into somebody and demand the basketball. Okay, after James Johnson and Jeff Teague left, I can tell you right now, if I was on that team, I would demand the ball every single time. No, the offense is going to be ran through me. And that's something I think he's going to need to work on. And like we all said this before, it depends on which coach has opportunity to think that maybe he could change this young man's mindset and get him to be more aggressive in wanting the basketball.
No, you're exactly right. And his wingspan, at 7'4" wingspan,
that's what I'm saying.
He could be a...
Athletically, he's an NBA player, right? So everything's about trying to figure that out. Is this a lack of confidence? Can we motivate this kid? Or does he lack the heartbeat, right? Is this just a kid who's not going to go hard? And if he's not going to go hard, good luck trying to change that, right? Some guys have that motor, some don't. And that's the question with him. If they think he has it, he's going to be a very high pick in this draft.
Hey guys, let's take a look at Wes Johnson's run. Now, you're talking about not breaking a sweat. He looks so fluent during the season. Now watch, he looks a little stiff-legged here, kind of stiff.
It's almost like his knees weren't coming up.
Yeah. I mean, was he not loosened up enough?
I think that's something that you see when you see a guy sprint straight away. You're supposed to really, push that knee to get your knees up there to really get extra push off on that length.
Well, and that's the thing. Fortunately, I ran track.
You take the guy who fits a need. And I think, every team says we take the best player available, but I think it's a little more complicated than that, right? Because they'll group guys together in what I think mostly like tiers, right? And you say, okay, here are the guys that we think have kind of equivalent talent in this tiers. Now, which guy fits the best need?
Well, I tell you how you do it as a GM. When the scouts are all meeting and stuff, you let them meet and you go in and see their rankings. You start throwing questions up there, and they sort of get the hint, the direction you want to go.
Right.
So you sort of, the rankings sort of end up falling the way you want.
Yeah.
Because there was one year in Philadelphia, there was a point guard that, I won't say his name, that I didn't like, didn't think he played defense, and we didn't need a point guard, but the scouts had him ranked high. By the end of 3 or 4 days, by my badgering him with questions, he was where he needed.
What you're talking about, the second round, if they're not told, you're not a first-round pick, go back to school, I agree with that 100%, but it seems like as far as disseminating the information, and I don't know where to point the finger, but can't these kids get better information from the NBA or their own agents? Because they're all told at some juncture, you're going to be a first-round pick coming up next year.
Not from the agents.
Here's my only thing about that, and I had the opportunity to go through that my sophomore year where I was thinking about leaving school early. I had so many people, and thank God I have my mother and my father who are there to help me make decisions, but a lot of kids, unfortunately, don't have their mother or father there to help them make decisions. You have so many other people in your camp that you trust, people that you've known your entire life, that all of a sudden want to implement themselves back into your life around that decision time, that have different agendas. So you get all different kinds of information from different people, and then you have them telling you that, okay, well, your coach has an agenda, or your agent has an agenda. So then you really don't know who to trust, and these kids are getting forced out earlier and earlier.
What about the NBA advisory committee? I would think that they would be objective enough.
But the problem is, Lynn, I think the coaches get the information, they give it to the kids, but the kids tend to trust other people, the AAU coach or their local friend or whatever. They make the decision based on the wrong information.
Well, they make the decision based on what they want to hear.
Exactly.
Remember, I was in this business also, and kids many times hear what they want to hear. If they're bent on coming out, they'll seek out the person who's going to tell them what they want to hear and put, all of the responsibility for the decision.
Well, how about some coaches that are represented by some of the agents? How does that work?
No, you're right. How does that work?
Isn't that a conflict of interest?
There are conflicts in that respect, but the advisory committee really, I think, is the one that you consult.
But because you're not a first-round pick and you happen to go in the second round, there's been a lot of guys that are drafted in the second round that have great NBA careers, and so, and they're still going to make more money in the second round than they would coming out of college. And I understand we've had the argument about staying in school, going to college, but I think if a kid makes a decision, they stay in. Now they've got, I think it's the responsibility of his agent and his college coach, everybody, try to put the kid in the best possible position to be successful after that point.
I think actually we're arguing a lot, but we're all in agreement about one thing. There needs to be a better job at taking care of these kids and making these kids first.
Yeah.
Whether that starts at the high school level about preparing them for college, whether it's about getting them the help that they need in college to succeed, whether it's about getting them the best advice that they can get about coming in the draft. Too often, other interests go ahead of the best interest of the kids, and I think that's the thing all of us are really talking about is how do you get the best interest of the kids to help them.
And you got to start it early, and that again is among the organizations, obviously iHoops is in the point of educating parents as well as the young men as to what the options are out there. Nobody's saying they can't make decisions, but make the most informed decision is all we're saying. And
obviously the NBA is a big business. So the NCAA, the NBA, what's the relationship? Is it a good relationship?
I think it has been. Obviously, when Dr. Miles Brand, who passed away recently, was the head of the NCAA, I think he reached out a hand to David Stern, and they both understand they have some mutual interests. And you talk about building the interests of the young people. That's where it came down to, although the NBA will tell you right now that they're not in